All right. We live.
We're doing it.
Welcome back. Hot Breath-averse. Welcome back to Hot Breath Live. This is our weekly live stream we do every Tuesday on our YouTube channel. We bring on some of the game's most influential people so you can ask their questions. Wait, you ask them your questions directly.
Yeah. It's that sugar.
I'm having sugar withdrawals, and I'm just excited about today's guest because in this show and us doing over 400 interviews with comedians primarily, we've interviewed several successful, quote, social media comedians, but haven't really gotten the people behind the person. And this guy started in TV developing shows, transitioned to social media, and has literally changed the game, has a big thumbprint on why we do what we do and why social media is the most really important way to build a following.
Yeah.
And a fan base to sell tickets. This guy's going to tell us how he did it so we can do it, hopefully.
Yeah. I'm super excited, man. This is one of those things that you've always been curious about. You're like, all right, how did all that happen with that? And now we get to get deep and dive in. I'm looking forward to this one.
So let's delay no longer, my friends. This guy has a roster of comedians with millions of followers. So you're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to reach out to him after this. And you're going to want to join our email list because we'll be sharing a breakdown of what we learned here afterwards. So get that linked in the description of this episode. And without further ado, please welcome to the Hot Breath-averse, the one, the only, the John Edmonds Kozma, everyone.
Kozma.
Give it up for John Edmonds Kozma. You got me nervous here, John. You got me nervous here.
Oh, what's going on, man?
John, you do have a name of like a UFC fighter. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, nice.
To the ring. John Edmonds Kozma out of Brazil fighting jiu-jitsu.
Well, I had to keep the full name because I don't know I think when I first started doing something, I think the full name got out there, and then I thought about it and I said, if somebody's going to search me, I'll probably be more found if it's a full name with Edmonds in the middle, because there might be several John Kozma. So I just went with the full name from a CEO standpoint.
Oh, is it Kozma?
Kozma.
Oh, I researched this in an interview you did. Someone called you Kozma, and I just assumed that was right. And dang it.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
How embarrassing. Okay.
Where are you from, John? Where are you from originally?
I'm from North Carolina. I'm born in Asheville.
Yeah. All right. All the way from Asheville, North Carolina.
I live in.
What'd you say?
I'm sorry. I live in Charleston, South Carolina now.
Charleston. Okay. All the way from Charleston, South Carolina. Reintroducing Mr. John Edmonds Kozma. Did I get it?
Kozma.
Mr. John Edmonds
We're
Kozma.
0 for 2. John is not going to help us go viral now. he is like,
I'm just looking at us. He's like, yeah, I think these guys are gonna screw it up once more.
well, let's just get into the juice here, John. So if you could just give the Hot Breathers a brief background on what you have built with Bang Productions and what you're doing here, just to give them some context for like what we're about to get into today, man.
Well, we took a guy from the trailer from the Talladega National Forest, living on his dad's property, to Just for Laughs in 2 years, and doubled down on that blueprint. And now we're one of 30 companies in the world. It's a Meta Media partner, and just recently approached by TikTok to be one of the first major U.S. agencies for TikTok. We'll see if that finalizes. But yeah, I never knew I had intelligence. I never knew I had intelligence in tech until I started talking to people in tech, because a lot of people in entertainment didn't really understand what I did.
What is let's get into this blueprint, man. Let's get in here. What is maybe we start with, what are mistakes you're seeing most comedians make on social media?
Well, they need to quit listening to everybody, you know, is the first thing, because I think comedians, in a way, you get a bunch of them in a room and every one of them's got a different idea on what they should do for their career. And I think you need to look within yourself and find yourself and find some firm footing for yourself and understand who you are, and then project that to the world. I think you're only, you're only strong, I'll say, if you come from a pure source of who you are.
How do you find that out? How do you discover your pure self?
Well, if you have 10 different ideas that are being told to you in your ear or whatever, and you're a highly sensitive individual, which most comedians are, it makes your thought process go so many different directions. You forget what's coming from the heart, and I think if you got a narrative to put out to the world, it needs to come from the heart. And if it's diluted in any way, you're not going to be as good as you can be.
So if a comedian is listening, I'm tracking, John. Don't you worry.
Gotcha.
We're with you here, buddy.
Yeah.
So if a comedian is listening to this and they're like, I want to make my big push on social media, I want to be like, just the comedian you're talking about is Southern Mama, who you took from the trailer to Just for Laughs in 2 years. So
Yes.
if a comedian's like, I want to do that, or I at least want to get going and get momentum on social media, start building my following, where should they start?
Well, when I looked at the comedy industry, and if you think about the trajectory and what industry would tell comedians to do, they said, hey, you need to start gigging. Right. And if you think about it, let's say you do, 5 to 7 shows a week, and you're starting out, and say 50 people come to a show. They have no idea who they're coming to see. Right. And then you start that process, and let's say you pull 2 or 3 people out of that show that can relate to your tone. People will relate to your tone based on law of attraction. So if you pull 2 people out of each show based on your tone that resonates with the people watching the show, think about the growth. That's why it takes people in comedy 10, 12 years to get to where they need to get to, because in saying that, I realized that people in comedy were trying to appease the industry. They weren't thinking about who's paying the bills.
Yo.
Big facts.
That's
Yes.
that's big
Yeah,
facts right
yeah.
there.
Like, I want to throw up a fire emoji and 100, fire emoji,
Yeah.
100, fire emoji, 100. Yeah.
Because the industry forgot who's paying.
For sure. So, like, when you think about, like, the way you sort of, your example and how you built up Southern Mama, what was the thing that you saw that you were like, okay, we're going to start this differently, and this is how we're going to start it?
Well, most people, from a producing standpoint, when I looked at it, I thought about focused energy. How do we create focused energy? And then I looked at how I think Darren had about 200,000 fans when we started on Facebook. And I just looked at the response of the people, how they were responding. They were saying that he was, their spirit animal. These females saying spirit animal, and they loved him, and just his relatability was off the charts. So when I looked at that, I was like, from a producing standpoint, I didn't want to dilute his narrative. So basically, all I did was I think he had 15 minutes set, to start with, 15 minutes of material. I said, let me just create an outline and help him with his timing structurally, and him fill the holes with the content. Because I think the more authentic you are, going back to your pure source and what comes from the heart, more authentic, it's more relatable to the masses. And I think that was forgotten in comedy. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I love that your truest, authentic self is actually what's the most relatable.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, if you have a narrative, it's very, very relatable. That's coming from the heart. Stay with that narrative. Don't listen to anybody else. Stay with that narrative, because it will be more relatable to the masses as you grow your career. And then you can build whatever narrative you want to off of that relatability. But I think a true artist has to be contemporary to themselves, you know, based on their age, based on their environment, and that's a big deal. I think it keeps you as a true artist in a way. So if you have that understanding and that mindset, and then you understand social media and you put that out to the world, you're going to have a better reaction, because it's going to be more relatable. And the quicker you build, you'll be able to build quicker with better relatability. And Darren, the thing that Darren's trajectory was so fast is he had a 90% female fan base. And I discovered that the number one avatar was a 32-year-old female that made $40,000 to $60,000 a year.
Interesting.
And that was just from your own research to get to that, in terms of just looking at the, I
Well,
guess.
I knew I didn't want to, like, I mean, we sold out 150 shows in a row when we started, but I knew that, I didn't want to take the normal industry standard route. I said, if we can find a balance of creating content and building a pure source of fans, right? We had doubled down on his relatability and brought in a pure source of fans, and then sell back to that source, right? It was a stronger deal. And a lot of people in comedy may disagree with that. They're like, well, they're coming to see, uh, it's not universal. It's not this. But why does it have to be universal? If I can sell tickets to a pure source, they already know who they're coming to see. The defense mechanism is already done, and double down on that process.
So what would you let's let's say me, for example. I'm married, I have a dog, I like gardening, I like pins. I mean, I've tried to create content around all these different things. Like what would you, looking at me and how like, you look at me and you're like, "Wow, this guy should be more famous." Like, this guy's got all the goods. And then what would you do? How would you mold me into fame so my wife doesn't make me get a real job? What would you do, John?
All right, let's figure out your micro moments of the day. Let's break down your life in
Okay.
real time. So when
Okay.
you get out of bed from, say, 8 a.m. to noon, what do you do that's real?
I meditate, I exercise, I walk with my wife every morning. We go on a walk with our dog. I write in the mornings. We'll typically shower.
When you meditate and exercise, you ever get interrupted by your kids? Does anything out of those scenarios, or anything oddly that happens?
I don't have kids. I have a dog. So if anything odd happens, well, when we go on a walk, we definitely like to avoid people, even though we live in a neighborhood. We do try to. We'll turn around sometimes if we see people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I notice if I wave at people, I notice when they don't wave back.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else odd? I love cereal. I'm addicted to sugar.
There you go. There's bits right there. I think if you break down micro moments of your life, how do you wrap around relatable tags to who you are? How many single guys out there, kind of norm, family-ish type of guy, what tags and funny things can you create about your real life and who you are? Because I think once you figure that out, then you project, because it's so close to you, then you project differently, right? You start getting that rhythm of understanding who you are, creating a tag, creating a set around that. I think that's how you start, and go from there.
So it's
it's
writing.
so funny that you mentioned sort of the persona and finding yourself, because we
Mhm.
hear in comedy, right? Because we hear this thing that it takes you like 10 years to find yourself in comedy. And what I'm hearing you say is if you can find yourself much sooner, you can change the game for yourself by being much more pure and much more authentic to yourself. Because it
Yes,
feels like that is what's sort of happening with comedy, is that authenticity is much more is being much more rewarded because that's what people are relating to your point.
absolutely.
So how would you help comedians get to more authentic?
Well, you just got to look at your own life, and like if Joel shows up, hadn't had kids yet. I'm sure his parents got a lot to say about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. Like stuff like that, because like I said, I think it's like a factor, right? You find these micro moments of your own life, and then if when you're trying to tell that story, it's a stronger position, it's a stronger voice you're coming to, instead of trying to pull in elements of things you think are funny as a one liner. I mean, I know a lot of, when comedy started, Saturday Night Live, and I interviewed Alan Zweibel, comedy was about one liners back then. But I think things have changed because, everything is an identity world. So I think you have to create that identity on who you truly are. And that's what people gravitate to. It's just like, these networks. I said you should reverse engineer how Netflix, sells their shows. Like, it's all right when they market a show, it's Netflix, name of the show, then who's starring in the show. You've already lost, from a standpoint of that structure, you've already lost 20 to 30% of your potential audience, because they're not going to pay attention by the time you get to the third of who's starring in the show. Instead of saying Kevin Hart stars in this show, here's the name of the show, and here's the network, because nobody really gives a shit who the network is. But if they know there's an identity up front that they like, they'll go find that identity anywhere. Does that make sense? It's an identity world, and people want to follow identities that they can relate to.
Yeah, I like that. So as you sort of I love the way that your mind works in terms of like reverse engineering, sort of. It's almost like you're reverse engineering the game, but you're also reverse engineering what everyone has been told about comedy for the last like couple of decades, and how to
Yeah.
get there, and how to, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna lie, we kind of also do the same thing, in the sense of like, man, you got to get those reps in, man. You got to go gigging, you got to get on stage, you got to be funny, you got to do the 10 years sort of commitment of just grind. And what you're saying is find you first. It's almost like find who you are, like quickly, and almost find your fan base and almost like feed that fan base. Is that a good way of describing it?
Yeah. Don't solidify industry. Solidify yourself first. Then you need the reps. I'm not saying you definitely need the reps, but I think you have to, solidify yourself on who you are and understand who you are, and then do the reps. Your growth will be times 10.
Yeah, I think a lot of us are like just like almost spraying and praying. It's like people posting crowd work clips, hoping it goes viral, or oh, let me do a skit about making coffee and maybe that'll go viral. Or like I feel like a lot of us are we're just like posting and we're like, all right, I hope this is the one type deal. There's no real thought or strategy beyond I have to post today because everyone else is, so maybe this is the post that makes me go viral.
Yeah, I mean, like either one of you, your girl Yoshi or whatever, like what, are there any funny moments, you're talking about? I mean, hell, you had a bit right there about trying to stay in comedy because of your girl. You know what I mean? Like, do reels on that conversation.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I mean,
you know what I'm saying? People like the real shit.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, I think it's so funny that you're bringing this up because as you were asking Joel about his micro moments, I'm thinking through my own like micro moments of just like what I do. And, I'm a stay-at-home dad. I've got kids. I take my kids. I got to get them dressed. I'm cleaning. I'm spending a little bit of time writing. I'm doing a little bit of work on producing shows, and then working on the comedy. I'll try to make a real video. Like I'm doing all the things, and I'm like, but the thing that like I would say, are you trying to find moments within those micro moments that you would say that's where your comedy is found, or is that's where your identity is in terms of who your audience is?
Well, I think it's both. Okay. It's like what's in you, like when you're home keeping the kids, what's going through your head?
I don't want to be here. Okay. All right.
Exactly. Exactly. Home with the damn kids again. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Like do something on that. I mean, because comedians' minds will tell you what you need to say.
Yeah.
Because a good comedian turns a thought process. Boom, 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 boom. And if you're in this space already, your mind is going so fast. Just pull those thought processes out of your head. And I think a lot of comedians cut off their nose to spite their face because they're afraid to pull the shit out of their head.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. I'm not afraid. I do talk about some of this stuff on stage, but as I'm looking at like, even me and Joel just did a show this past weekend together. That was a super fun show. And I'm thinking of the audience and like, that was so my audience because I completely understood everything that they were going through in terms of who they are, because it was like a suburban crowd, country
rich white
club
people
crowd.
Is what it was, John. It was a very nice country club, and it was rich white people. Just for the context, Yoshi's gonna sugarcoat it. It was a bunch of 1%ers. Is who it was.
And I walked in and I was like, my people.
Yeah. You should
and they were all
talking,
white. I should clarify.
You should start talking shit about that. Like, what the hell am I doing here?
For sure. Okay.
And that, and they're going to relate to that. You relate to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's something that's real.
Absolutely. So when you find yourself, what do you think the next step is after finding yourself, and sort of what did you do with Southern Mama after you were like, okay, this is the demographic, this is the people that we know we want to go after? What was sort of your next steps to sort of take it next level?
And what is his identity? Like, what would you pinpoint as like, oh, this is his identity? And then, expand. Like,
Well, he he's a guy that has female tendencies. He emulated his mother. Basically, and he emulated his mother, which was a hard Southern woman. But he's a dude. I mean, but that was his life. He grew up gay, suppressed, and in a Alabama town, and that was who he was. That was his experiences. And I think that, but somewhat because of his suppression, I think he digested everything that was said to him as a kid, because there's a lot of shit going through his head at the time, and didn't know if it was right to be gay, not to be gay, but if you feel, if someone's gay or whatever, and you feel that you feel these female tendencies, he wasn't scared to put that out to the world. So if you took, Joel, if you did 10 videos of 10 reels of a conversation with your parents about why you haven't had kids yet, and you put that out to the world, you should put that social media out there. And by law of attraction, there's a certain tone that you're putting out. And people are attracted to tone. It's just like your friends that you hang out with have a very similar tone. So if you put that content out to the world and you stay in that vein of content and step and repeat, step and repeat, step and repeat, you start to bring in data on who your fan base is, right? And as that data comes in, because I'm writing a book on how to find finding a perfect audience.
Perfect.
And you bring that, you start bringing that data in, and then let's say you get a big enough number of people where you say, all right, I want to look at the top 30% demographic, and I'm going to continue to cater to that, because whatever that tone is of that top 20, 30%, then everything around it will just be exponential, if that makes sense. All right. And the other thing I saw too in industry, once you establish your tone, you need to stay in that vein, and just that's where you got to work over and over and over and over and over, and step and repeat. And one thing that I realized too, industry had a standard way of marketing acts. And one thing that they don't look at is tools in the toolbox. So if you take one act that has a 50% male fan base, 50% female fan base, then you have another act that has 90% female, 10% male fan base. They use the same formula to market those acts, and they may be the same level of talent. But what you have to understand about that data, once you understand what your tone is and who your fan base is, I know that this guy's very talented. I know this guy's very talented, but I know that this 90% female fan base person, that a 25 to 34-year-old female is the most reactionary and biggest buyer online. So when I put out content, I know they're going to respond quicker because of that makeup. The males dilutes that response time because they wait to buy shit. They wait to respond, so you got to kind of cater, your direction and based on how you want to market yourself, based on the tools in the toolbox, which are your demographics on who your law of attraction is, that is established by the tone of your narrative.
So you have several comedians on your roster. Is that what you do with each of them? Is you kind of figure out their identity and their tone, and then start to build like a consistent content marketing strategy around that?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, we I've trimmed down a lot. I'm trying to focus on Darren. I'm trying to put out Red Squirrel. We're trying to be a little more precise. I want to do some stuff, from a human experience, and try to teach some people some stuff. So we're kind of reeling back on the amount of people we work with now. But absolutely, it's figuring that out, and and for me, it's a feel thing too, because like once I start working with somebody, it takes me maybe 60, 90 days before I really understand them. So once you dig into this, if you don't have immediate, you understand your tone, you're getting the right data. But if you don't have that quarterly success immediately, don't worry about it. Because if you establish the foundation the right way, all you have to do is build on that foundation. Just stay with it. Because a lot of people I see too, they try it and 3 months they short themselves because they stop. When it takes 60 to 90 days to really hit stride. Once you figure out what that vein is, just stay with it, because when you build the foundation the right way, you'll have success. And I say foundation, that's the people that are attracted to your narrative.
What are those early signs of success? Because it is like you'll post 10 reels and they all get 10 views each, and you're like, oh, maybe I should try something else now, instead of seeing it all the way through. How do you know when you're on the right track?
Like I said, I think it's those real life moments.
That feel.
Don't overproduce. Don't overthink it. Don't think there's a perfect, there's never a perfect way to do it. It's just get the content out there. Just do it. Just, hey, you feeling it? You having a conversation with your girl and it's funny. You got some crazy shit going. You have to film it. Get it out there. You don't have to prepare for the Oscars. And I realized that in television. A lot of this stuff I realized too is with social media, the casting call is already done for you if you understand it. And if you think about Hollywood, 10 people in a room are going to pick who the star is, and they don't even understand the sensibilities of the star. I mean, that's an old model. So think about how many people they missed because the 10 people in the room didn't relate to that talent. Let the people decide. Let the masses decide who you are, not the 10 people in the room. Don't worry about industry. The people will tell you who you are and who your fans are.
Yeah, I'm starting to see a theme here, and the theme is F the industry.
I mean, by default, I mean, you can't, you're talking 15, 20 years ago when 5 minutes on Johnny Carson or whatever made you a superstar.
Yeah.
And today people are on there 10 times and can't sell 3 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So to the industry's default is that, I'm not saying screw industry, you just got to understand the changes and how do you adapt to that. And I think patterns of business, if you got guys created a pattern of business and they're making money, they want to stay in that same pattern of business. So that in a way they have blinders on what's changing around them.
For sure.
But now, but when, we started with, like I said, I rented the venue, I sold my own tickets, I marketed the show, I did everything myself, and people told me, like, you're not supposed to do that. I was like, why not? I would go to the clubs and sell my own tickets and pay the club.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, and then Ralphie May and a bunch of acts started copying that, and we were the first. And the other thing is understanding. The other thing is, like, you can't have a lot of, like, in your content. I started the radio edits. I thought about the radio edits way back in the day, how it's like everybody's got ADD. Like, you got to keep their attention. So I was the one that started that whole trend, and everybody jumped on the radio edits. Hit. So, because you got to get them the first 10 seconds of perception, just boom. It's almost like that clickbait video up front. Like, whatever video you do, find the climax or whatever it is. Take that 3-second piece, put it at the front of the video, and then it's bit. Because that 3-second piece climax will make them watch the video from front to end. I mean, that's 20% right there. Put the clickbait up front.
that's what you mean by radio edit, is like having that like teaser or that hook at the beginning of the
Well, the radio,
video?
no, the radio, well, the radio, you got to have the teaser, but the radio edits were like, you know, line, line, line. There was no transitions at all. I took out all the transitions because you lose when you find content, especially on social media that have transitions, you lose 20-30% of your audience just on that alone.
Oh, how it's like the quick cut of like
Yeah.
one line, the next line, the next line. There's no
Yeah.
like almost breathing room in there.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's almost set up, punchline, tag, 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 tag.
Yeah.
So you hit a crescendo.
Yes.
Gotcha.
To keep their attention, because most people have ADD.
Yep.
You know, so you're appealing to the ADD world, and just think if you made a lot of content that didn't have those punches quick enough, or you didn't have the climax up front for the clickbait, you might have had great content, but it didn't do well because you didn't have the right edit. That's another factor. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be pretty. Just do it, get it out there, and you know, if you shoot a wide net, don't overthink it. You will perfect your the fan base will tell you how to perfect your content along the way, because you're gonna start to understand how these people are responding. Does that make sense?
Would you start with like quick short form videos, and like what platform would you prioritize? Like, because we're like, oh, I gotta post everywhere, so I end up posting nowhere type deal.
I would get on Facebook Reels.
Yeah.
Minute or less right now. The big opportunity right now. Put the clickbait, put your funniest moment at 3 seconds at the top, then quick cuts, and just start getting it out there, because the Facebook Reels are going to give you a lot of reach. Even YouTube is good, you know. And then TikTok came to us about this big live program. I got to see how that pans out and try to understand that. But you know, lives are good. Go live every day. You know, I mean, just grind it out. I mean, if you did that with social, if you put the effort into your content like you would your live shows, your progression will be faster, and you'll spend less money traveling and shit.
What advice would you have to like overcome that fear or that self-doubt, or like, I mean, I've created content and then like not posted it. I've been like, all right, I'm gonna do it, and I have it open on the app, and then I end up like not posting it. Like I'll run into that kind of resistance as well.
Like I said, you just got to do it. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, who gives a shit? Nobody. Like, it's not like, you know.
Yeah, nobody.
Yeah, it's like you're Jerry Seinfeld. Yeah, who gives a shit? Just put it out there. Like I said, the people will tell you what you need to do. You just got to be real, get it out there. Don't hesitate. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, just understand a few principles and just go. I mean, I talk about this stuff, and people look at me sometimes like, what the hell? You know, I guess my narrative is really, really different, huh? Compared to what y'all hear in the business?
You know, I don't know if it's different, but you're definitely talking about things that most people in the industry are not talking about, right? Because what you haven't said, right, is that like focus on the 5 minutes, focus on the 10 minutes, focus on the 15, the 20, like build your thing. You've mentioned it, but that's what we're hearing in the industry, right? Like the industry is all about like, you got to get that comedy right. You got to get those things right. But what I'm hearing, and I think where the difference and probably why you strung a chord in the industry is that not, you know, I know we keep using the word reverse engineer, but you're changing the mold by which people are becoming successful with social. And you're changing the mold by which artists and comedians are actually getting their names out there. And I think it's so different than what people are used to, but you are hitting on a narrative where this is the actual norm now. People are getting bigger through social media than they are through the element of, oh, he had 5 minutes and then we saw him here and now he's here and now we've put him at this pedestal area, and now he's, you know, opening for Jerry Seinfeld, right? Like the game itself is completely changing. And I think we're not hearing a lot of people like you talk about that game changing.
Well, if you understand all these factors I've been discussing, right, you'll have enough material to carve out whatever time you need.
For sure.
You know, you only have to. It's already there. You're just looking in the wrong places.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? I mean, if you look at the landscape, I mean, even to this day, we've been running strong for 7 years, and I'm the only guy that independently competes with, you know, Live Nation, you know, AEG Global. You know, the only promoter I promote on my shows, I do on my shows myself at a very high level. I mean, we're doing 1,000 to 2,000 seaters this year. I'm the only guy in the business doing that. You know, and the only promoter I do use, you know, to help with shows is Outback Presents and Brian Dorfman, you know, because we have a good relationship. And he was actually, Brian Dorfman was the guy who let me in the door, because when we first started, I had 9 shows sold out in Nashville, and the venue that we were at didn't want to do it. So we moved 9 sold out shows to Zany's, and then that's where it all began. So we spent, like, you know, 10 days at Zany's starting out, but Brian's the one that let me in the game.
Yeah, he owns Zany's, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the proof is in the pudding, and I think what we did is not rocket science, and people just, you know, I think people know who we are. They just don't want to talk about it. Everybody knows who we are. They don't want to mention. They don't want to give us accolades or anything. But if they did, if they came and said, "Hey, let's figure out this together," I think you're going to find more success within the industry, because it's already been proven. Does that make sense? Yeah, that makes sense.
It does make sense. I feel like me and Joel's mind are like being blown right now. We're just like, oh,
I mean, you're just well, like, my brain is, one direction my brain is going right now is that, like, I've had moments on this podcast before, and I'm sure listeners have as well, of like, oh, I'm learning about how this social media comedian built a following. It's my time now. Now I'm going to go and do it and commit to it. And then I haven't. And I feel like a lot of people have done the same thing. So my brain is like, well, what can I do that's going to be different this time, type deal? After hearing this and learning and, all right, picking up on micro moments of my life and working on posting and not caring and trying to find my identity and letting the audience that does react kind of help me steer the content in a way that'll build a bigger following. What can I do to actually make this stick and actually follow through, you know?
Well, I think you need to, like, looking at you, Joel, like, you need to go out in the woods and do ayahuasca and get rid of all your fear. Get rid of the fear. The fear is the only thing I can look at both you guys. Your fear is the only thing that's hindering you. Get rid of the fear. If you had no fear, both of you might be 2 of the biggest comedians in the country. But fear is the only limitation you have. That's all it is. There's no reason to be scared of the industry. What are you going to die scared and never do nothing?
Touche.
I mean, that's basically what it is. I see more people that are fearful of themselves. Why? Go do ayahuasca, do something, crack that, you know, crack in. Obviously, you got a good podcast here. Both of you have great personalities. You know, I think if there's anything that you can do to break through that fear, and you do this process that I told you on this podcast, you will be more successful. I guarantee that.
Hey, honey, me and Joe gonna get messed up next week. You good with that?
We found the plug on ayahuasca. We're gonna go in the woods, honey.
Breakthrough. I mean, could you imagine Joel, the conservative looking redheaded guy with
the youth
doing
pastor?
ayahuasca, the youth minister? You should do a youth minister series. Seriously, the youth minister. That would be, hey, I think you have a youth minister tone. You should do something funny on that, like the damn what's it called? What's his name here? Danny McBride. Or Danny McBride does those the show about the preachers.
Oh yeah, Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah, I guarantee you, like church crowd with you, Joel. You do a youth minister, you blow up the church crowd.
So what kind of skits could I do? Like, is it like a youth minister that gives bad advice, or a youth minister that like tries to be cool, or that's not?
I don't know.
Or...
Did you go to church?
I do, on YouTube. So that's a start.
What'd you do when a kid? Did you go to church as a kid?
I did. Yeah.
See, once I look at you for a minute, I can tell your life.
Yeah. Keep
I mean,
going.
think about all that kind of shit.
You
know, like the simpleness on the front, but the craziness behind the lens. Right?
It's like the church I went to growing up, we met in like a high school. So it wasn't like, it was hit or miss church. So maybe that's the kind of youth minister I am, that meets at like a school or something. I don't know.
You know what I mean? I mean, that shit's funny.
I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Like that could be, I think that's relatable to your life.
It is, yeah. I just don't now. Like it's like, okay, there's a youth minister tone. Now it's like what? Now like skits. Like now it's just like you said, not overthinking it. It's just doing a few like rants or silly things.
Yeah, like what kind of conversations do you and your wife have about do you and your wife have very plain conversations, and you're thinking about, you're having your voice is saying a plain conversation, but your head's saying, what the fuck's going on?
My mind's telling me no.
No, honey, that's very relatable stuff universally. But I could see that from him. I don't know why. That's just what I read.
Youth minister is interesting. People in the comments like Elder Joel as well.
Elder Joel.
I like gardening as well, so I was trying to do gardening content, but maybe it's church content.
But how did you try to overproduce? What fear did you have to overproduce the gardening content? I just
haven't committed. Like I've posted like 3, and then I'll be like, oh, it didn't go viral, never mind. And then like I just won't post again or whatnot. Like that's basically, I just don't see it all the way through.
Yeah. What platforms have y'all been doing stuff on?
Facebook. I've been posting to Facebook Reels and Instagram primarily.
And you do a video a day?
I have been lately.
I'm definitely not doing a video a day. I know that for sure.
Do a video a day. Do a video a day. 1 video a day. The 3 seconds at the front. Radio edit. Something that's relatable. Get rid of the fear. And I know that's hard, tough to do, is get rid of the fear, but that's what you have to do. Because obviously both of you, how many episodes you done here? You're doing, you got 200 some, 300 episodes or whatever here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's solid. That's solid just in itself. So there's a foundation there.
Yeah, we could do more to promote this show for sure. But yeah. How would you market a podcast? How would you market our podcast to make us famous on here maybe?
I don't have the sauce yet to really put a narrative out there for the podcast. Gotcha. I've done about 90 95 episodes of mine, and
Mhm.
it's growing. It's growing. I just I don't know yet on the. It's out on now. I'm trying to figure that piece out.
Gotcha.
When you are like thinking about the people and the talent that is like on your roster, I guess obviously Southern Mama was, huge success story. What other elements are you looking for when you bring on talent? Like what's the factors that these people have or that like your talent roster has that you're like, okay, this is something that we can work with?
People who are depressed as hell. I
Ding 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 ding.
Everyone in the live stream is like, all right, got you right here, John. We're next.
I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a feel. It's kind of a feel about what it's kind of a feel about what I don't know. It's a feel,
Okay.
I don't think I look at I think I just got to see the person, right?
Yeah.
And to
Mhm.
see a video or whatever. I mean, the video I saw of Darren was a video of him at trade day. And at the time, a buddy of mine, who's a big producer, who used to do all the show, he's had all the number one shows on TLC back in the day. He's done I don't know how many hours of television. He did a development deal with the liberal redneck, and then I saw this video of Darren because I was about to partner with Chris Case, who's a big showrunner in LA. And I went to people in comedy. They're like, he doesn't need a manager. He needs 5 years development. And I said, screw it. I said, we'll just sign him and do business. And when I saw that video, somebody missed him. It was just,
Mm.
it was just real, it was just real life stuff, and I think you got to step outside of overproduced industry business thought process. Just step outside and be real. I'm just telling you, film, just do a video of you getting out of bed at from 8 to 10, do a video from 10 to 12, do a video from 12 to 2 of just normal shit. I'm sure there's stuff both of you aren't telling me that you say that could be funny in your daily lives, you
Yeah,
know?
dude, I just finished putting together this cleaning my garage for the last like 3 days. And the mental gymnastics that I've been doing about not about cleaning this garage. I haven't cleaned it in 4 years. Never
Mhm.
cleaned it. And then all of a sudden this weekend I was like, I gotta clean this garage out. And just the stuff that I'm going through. And this is like dad moment. Like my kids are like, can we play? I'm like, no, I need to clean this garage out. Like I'm neglecting my fatherhood duties so I can clean this garage.
Yeah. Yeah, you got 2 or 3 reels just out of that
Yeah,
experience.
yeah, yeah.
The links you go to avoid your family.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
literally do chores to avoid your
Yeah.
family.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when do you wanna be away from your girl? When does your girl get on your nerves?
Yeah, I like
They
that.
all I mean, relationships are there's a lot in relationships, ton of stuff in relationships because it's like you want to walk out the door 1 minute and then you want to, love them the next minute. It's a love hate relationship.
Yeah.
Dude, talk about that shit. Everybody can relate to a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I mean, I do these little reels with my daughter about the stuff, like I was teasing her about she's going to have to pay rent at 18 when she turns 18. Yeah, stuff like that. Why do y'all kids communicate on Snapchat? This is not a lifestyle. This is not real. Just real. That's a real thing. And like those videos with my daughter got like 2-3 million views each. We've done several of them. But I did them just to try to bring awareness to things that were affecting kids.
Yeah.
Social media.
Well,
Yeah.
as we land this plane here, do you have any closing advice for us, John, or big takeaways to help us go forth and actually do instead of continuing to listen to other people's advice and not do?
Stay out of the comments. Stay out of the comments. If you build your foundation the right way, stay out of the comments. Don't have any knee-jerk reactions, because the other thing is emotions. If you understood the earth and you took 10 bloodlines and put them on the earth, and they all had different traits, and you take emotions out of that, you can determine what those bloodlines would do. But when you add the emotion to it, that's the creativity, that's the juggernaut of the universe. So, when you get emotional with comments or a perspective of somebody else, don't listen to somebody else. Listen to yourself. Listen to yourself, listen to your own perspective. Don't make a knee-jerk reaction or a knee-jerk decision that is an opinion about you, because only you know yourself more than anybody else.
Well, where could people, because I actually see Mary in the live chat just said she messaged you on LinkedIn. So like people that listen to this and found inspiration, where can they reach out to you? Where can they keep up with you? I know you have a podcast. Like where?
Yeah, the Unimpressed podcast, John Edmonds Kozma's Unimpressed podcast. I try to talk to intellects on there. I've had Hannah Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter. We talked about Muhammad Ali's life. We had what's his name? Ali Loeb, who wrote the report. He's the head of astronomy at Harvard. I like to talk to a lot of intellects. You can check me out on LinkedIn. Is an easy messaging system. Or just Google John Edmonds Kozma, reach out, and I'll hit you back.
Beautiful. Whew. All right. This is it, John. We're doing it this time.
Yeah. First of all, starting with the ayahuascas. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll make a road trip up there, John. We need the plug.
Y'all come to Charleston. Come to Charleston. Y'all can come. I'm going to be doing some shows, some smaller shows locally. If you want to come do some shows here in Charleston at the Wanderer, come on down. We'll put you on the card.
We'd love to. Yeah, let's keep in touch about that and get some dates going for sure.
Yeah, because I think both of you are characters. You just, like I said, I think the biggest thing is fear. I keep reiterating that. I think the biggest thing is fear.
I feel like you're hitting my soul, John. You're just like, you're just fearful.
I'm afraid you're right. You're right.
I think my therapist said the same thing. So
we'll send our copay to John Edmonds Kozma, which we said right this time.
Cool, man.
Well, beautiful. Well, thank you for your time, John. Thank you for everyone listening. Join our email list to keep up to date on future live streams and to get extra content over there. And we will see y'all next week. Hot Breath of Verse. Love you.
Appreciate y'all. Bye.
Bye.